right, Jay, if you can give her that, please. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for logging on for tonight's webinar in continuation with our communication series. Tonight, we have Professor Melissa Adeyeye bringing to you more of her skills and expertise on communication. We're just gonna get her video going and then we'll get started. Jay, can we just fix that for her?
Sure.
Nope, I don't think. Let me try one more time. No, it says I still am not able to use it, but that's no matter. I'm sure we'll get it fixed in a moment. Thank you again for giving us
You
your
can
time,
now.
precious time. I'll try one more time. Oh, there we go. All right, I can see myself. I hope you can see me.
We can see
Yeah, we
you.
can.
In my web and I guess I'm pointing this way to my PowerPoint as well, correct? Perfect.
Yes.
So, good evening. If I haven't met you before, my name is Melissa Adeyeye, and welcome to Building Strong Workplace Relationships. What our goal is for tonight is to look at two items. One, what information is appropriate to share and how to share, right? Building trust and camaraderie in your workplace, and also how to navigate and manage your group dynamics in your workplace and enhance your collaboration and productivity. So what we're focusing on is how you are connecting with other people. And if you've joined us in other sessions, we are building on some skills. I'll still review them, but the concept of communication is to use that skill to enhance your relationships and therefore enhance what you're doing in your entrepreneurial endeavor or in your workplace and even in your personal relationships right now. A little bit about me. I'm an assistant professor of communication of speech. My degree is in speech communication, rhetoric, and performance studies. At Suffolk, I teach in our communication department. I teach 4 of our courses, Intro to Human Comm, Interpersonal, which we're drawing a lot of those concepts from today, public speaking, and intercultural communication, which is a part of everything that we do. I'm also a faculty advisor for our Student Communication Club and our Honor Society because we love to give our students honors for the hard work that they do. And I've also done some consulting in various countries in Asia to help embolden teachers and administrators to enrich their communication with students, each other, and outside of their institution. So tonight, I want to start with a concept that I was ending with in some other sessions, and that is the concept of resilience. This is borrowed from Cornell Health, and on their website, they are offering us helpful tools to build resilience. And the idea of resilience is that we can push through whatever our circumstance. And I don't mean just push through and survive, but to begin to thrive. So I want to start here because as we talk about relationships, it is incredibly important that you think about yourself first. Okay? Who are you? What is your purpose? What do you want to do? And then what can you share to others? And then how can you share to others? So let's take a moment to look at this 5-step pyramid or resilience pyramid, if you will. On the bottom, you see some things that you already know, right? This is not news to you, but sometimes we forget. We forget to simply breathe, to take a breath. Folks, I'll be honest with you, sometimes I just need to take a step outside and breathe in fresh air. We get bogged down being inside, whether it's in the AC, which feels a little bit better in these hot days, or you're just inside at a computer or you're inside at the job. Taking a moment to breathe helps to reset your lungs. And additionally, it helps to get that oxygen to your brain. Secondly is fueling your body. You'll see me here throughout. I might pick up, oh, I think you heard it, but I have my trusty little mug here. Water, food, Nutritious food is so important to keep your body going, to keep you in a positive mood. A positive mood is important for us when we're reaching out to other people or we're trying to build or enhance those relationships. Next, moving your body. I've been talking about staying inside. If you're a person who has to sit on the job, set a reminder to stand up, to walk around, take a lap in your building if you can. When you get that fresh air, maybe go for a little walk. Sometimes 2 minutes, 5 minutes is all you need to reset yourself. And lastly, on our lowest and most basic need is get good sleep. I know you might be rolling your eyes at me and I can't see you, so roll away. Sometimes I know it's hard to get good sleep, but it could be as simple as changing your bed sheets, just so that you're a little bit more relaxed. I know sleep is a luxury, especially as we have multiple responsibilities, but think about doing these basic needs to get yourself ready to share and accept other people. As we move to that next level, we're thinking about engaging, and that's really where we are, connecting with each other. And the image that Cornell has chosen is connecting. You can see hundreds of people. Now, you may be an introvert like me. Yes, it's possible to be communications and introverted, but these connections can be as simple as your intimate relationships as well, but quality connections. Secondly, we're moving over to using those resources. You're doing it right now. You're learning about your communication and you're getting information to help enhance a part of your life. Third on this list is have fun, whether that's sharing cat memes or sitting down and watching a comedy or sharing a joke with a friend. Depends on your humor. But have some fun in life. Again, these responsibilities sometimes keep us in a serious mode, but we need to laugh, and we must remember to laugh. And next, connect with nature. Excuse me, my lights may go out. Connecting with nature, taking a time to be silent and to listen to those bugs chirping around. Yeah, the bugs and the birds. As we move up to the next stage, take time to reflect. You'll hear me offer you an opportunity to reflect on your relationships. And that may be in practicing mindfulness, whatever your opportunity of thought, of quietness, practice being grateful for the things that you have. Remember, somebody always has it better or has it worse. But what do you have that you can be grateful for? In the middle there, we have learned from our mistakes, because as humans, we have the ability to grow from the experiences that we have and to become better, to improve so that we get what we want out of our experiences and our situations. And that leads into adopting a growth mindset. Now, I don't have to tell you that because you're on this session and you're looking for growth. So I commend you as you are moving towards improving your experience. Now we move up one more step to making meaning. Expressing that gratitude as we could do in the mindfulness. That can be in journaling, that can be in your relationships, that could be just in a moment, lending your strengths, now reaching out to help others. If you're noticing from that bottom part of the pyramid, we had to take care of ourselves before we could make it up to helping out and reaching out to other people. And the last on making meaning is to connect with whatever spirituality that you connect with. Whether that is organized religion, whether it is not, it doesn't matter. Connect to what you believe is bigger and more meaningful to you. And lastly, what is your purpose? So use this as a resource, screenshot it, visit Cornell Health on your own. They have some other helpful hints that help you to manage stress. All these busy lives that we have, all these relationships that we must manage with all of our responsibilities. So let's take a closer look at some dynamics that are happening in the workplace that can affect your relationships and move towards some helpful hints. So what is impacting our connections? 3 things we're going to look at today: your environment, self-disclosure, and something called the norm of reciprocity. These things are always present in our relationships, but we'll start to think about what that does in the workplace. Now, Tina, I know you're with me here and we can have a one-on-one. And I know we might have some other people watching, but I'd love to hear some feedback from you if you're comfortable sharing. If not, I can certainly fill in the space with some examples that I've experienced or other hypotheticals. So my first question that I wanted to ask tonight is, how do you feel about your workplace? So Tina, if you're willing to unmute, you're welcome to, or text in the chat, either or.
No, I'm fine. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Tina. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm perfectly comfortable in my environment. The only thing I miss a little bit is I do work from home, and I'm a people person. So I miss being around people, but I try to make up for that by just talking a lot.
I appreciate that, Tina, and thank you for being willing to share. I feel you. As a communicator, boy, do I love people. And you are not alone, and it's not you. One thing that has slowly come to be acknowledged, especially in my discipline, is how impactful the pandemic has been on humanity, right? And I know it might seem passé by now. It's been 4 years. But we have been damaged from that, being separated from the people that we care about, having to reestablish relationships after being told not to connect. We have gotten used to not touching one another. And I'm talking about intimate relationships or where we would hug, right? So we now keep at an arm's length. So having gone through this worldwide experience has changed the way that we communicate. And what communicators, studies of the discipline has told us is that we need that, we're missing it. And so we may not be aware how much we need it. We're just operating without it. And so that's why I think this is an important topic. So I'm happy to hear that you have a positive workplace that you feel comfortable in. Perhaps you may feel supported. I want to bring in another perspective to that. There are lots of people who do not feel comfortable in their workplace, right? They do not feel supported. And shameless plug, our last session is leadership skills, which is next week, Thursday, where we talk about being a leader in that space and creating that environment. But what happens when we don't have a positive work environment? That has a negative impact on the relationships that one can have with people at a similar level, or maybe in a power dynamic like a supervisor, or maybe you are supervising people. So that environment itself is creating, or can be, a way for us to make meaningful connections, and it can prevent us or be a big barrier to preventing those connections. So while we acknowledge that, it's also important for us to acknowledge that in every relationship is a power dynamic. Now, we understand power structures in the workplace, right? I just mentioned having a supervisor, the supervisee, different levels of management, if you will, or a coworker who's at the same, would be at the same power level. But even in a coworker relationship, that we have these different types of power currency. So currency is simply meaning, as it says here, a resource, right? Something that other people value. So a resource currency is someone who has something like information, right? Information can be a resource. One person has the information about whatever your job is or your industry. They have information that you may need to complete your task, right? So they have something that you value or that you need. And expertise currency is having knowledge in that area. This is different from information, because information could be a report, but expertise is that person's knowledge of whatever the task is, or it may be knowledge within the industry that you have yet to learn. All right, so expertise could be broader in that sense. Social network currency is the person, there's a saying, it's not who you know, but who knows you. And so social network are the people that reach out to you, the people that know you, and that may be the amount of people who know you. You can think about in your workplace, who's the person that knows everybody, and everybody knows them. And so that moves into popularity. People want to be around that person as well. The fourth one we have is personal currency. And this may be things like your personality, right? We tend to value people who are positive, people who are easy to get along with, people who are charismatic, or people who are funny, and that can be valued. And lastly, we have intimacy currency, which is your closeness with that person. So why do these power currencies work? Well, they work in different dynamics. If we're thinking about interacting with more than one person and we're moving into a group dynamic, having this information helps us to understand where is power and then where might there be conflict. Because whenever there is money, there can be conflict. So wherever there is resource, there can be conflict. But in the same sense of understanding other people, it's important for us to know what type of power do we have in our relationships. So if I think about my workplace, I work in a suite of people, lots of different offices, and we couldn't say that one person has more expertise, right? We are supposed to be experts in our field. But if I want a more specific part of our field, there may be one person who's really good at organizing. We have a person who is just amazing at organizing. We're all pretty good, but this person is on the ball. That would be expertise. We have another person who, anytime you see them, they are cracking the funniest joke. That's personal currency. We have, in that dynamic of about 8 people, you can see pairs of people who talk outside of work, or they might be office mates. And so between them, they have intimacy currency because they have a closeness. Now, all of these exist within the workplace. And I have to say, I work in a wonderful place, but I also have to say, I've worked in places that were not environmentally friendly, or the environment was not friendly. And these power dynamics still happened. But you could go out and create your relationships looking at how people worked in the group. So the next question is, how do we create these relationships? We're really dealing with interpersonal communication between you and one other person. So before I move on, Tina, I want to ask you, as I've been talking, have you been thinking about your power currency? And what currency do you think you have in your workplace?
Excuse me. Yes, I do have a power currency. I like it. I don't always get to speak to the end user, so I have to get through the gatekeeper. So I'm constantly coming up with ideas to build a positive rapport to get them to pass me through the door.
So it sounds like you have personal currency, right, of being charismatic and reaching out, to somebody who has resource currency, access. What do you think? Is my assessment correct there?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. So it sounds like you're doing well, right? Understanding what that person has and then what you can do to get that you value of them. So we're looking at our next concept, which is, how do we do that? The social penetration theory. How do we connect to a person? So understanding our dynamics, the social penetration theory gives us the idea of how we communicate, what we share, when we share it, why we share it, how much of it we share it. So all of my images in this presentation have been sourced from the Microsoft Office Commons, so I have permission through there, or they're my own personal images. This one, you can envision an onion and the layers of an onion as you go down toward the middle. As we look at the depth, you can see we start at the superficial levels, and these conversations could be things that are on the surface, the weather, the most recent news events, right? Things that everybody kind of knows about. And so we have conversations on this superficial level. I want to be careful to note that superficial does not mean it has no value. It just means it's not deep. It's just not deep to us yet. We could take any one of those topics and we could get very deep. We could get to the core of how we truly feel about it. But we would simply just mention, oh, it was really hot last week, as opposed to, I hate hot weather because in 1980 something I experienced. That's deep. So we go from superficial to intimate to personal and then down to that core. The breadth explains how many topics we talk about in a given conversation. So as I mentioned before, we could talk about weather, we could talk about the job itself, we could talk about personal, other relationships, we could talk about so on, right? Different topics. Now, the question is, do you share? How much do you share? And would you want to share? So here's another question that I have posed as we think about the social penetration theory. Do you fit in or are you accepted? So I want to couple our resilience pyramid with our social penetration theory. And then we'll move on to our norm of reciprocity and sharing. I've come across this in social media, so I think it's becoming a hot topic. Fitting in versus acceptance. What does fitting in mean to you? And Tina, I'm going to turn to you. What does it mean to you to fit in?
To be able to communicate effectively with the particular person, where I speak with them and automatically I'm accepted. I try to make sure that I fit in, and actually I do a combination of both. I fit in and I'm accepted, because again, I have to go through one person to get to another. So I need to be accepted so that I can get to where I fit in.
That's very much true. Sometimes these two things go hand in hand. So I want to contextualize, and that's why I put it in quotation marks. What does it mean to fit in? One of my responsibilities at the college is to sit on hiring committees. And every time I sit on a hiring committee, we have to go through training. And one of those training uses the term of fitting in. And they say to be cautious. Be cautious to find somebody who fits in, because that means we're looking for someone who is a certain, let's use the puzzle analogy, is a certain shape, right? They fit in this really specific spot. Now we can interpret that as, well, they need to have those qualifications that we're looking for. But the subtext is the person who fits in usually fits with us, right? So they like the things that we like, they do the things that we do, and we accept things because it's like us. And so in quotations, that fitting in is different from being accepted. Because what if you are not that puzzle piece, right? Could you still finish the puzzle? Could you still be valuable to the puzzle if you don't quite work in the same way? And so it challenges this idea of, are we able to be ourselves while still also being a valuable member of our workplace and a valuable member of the group? So adding into part of your interpretation, Tina, yeah, I think we strive to fit in because we want to be accepted. But as we're also moving to entrepreneurial, what can we do to create an environment where we accept people? We accept them for what they can, the value that they have, and what they can bring to us. So I want to share a video about self-disclosure, an example, if you will. It's in the public domain, so you could see it for yourself. And I want you to think about, does this person fit in? Now, the context is an eHarmony. So we would look at this person as starting a relationship. My question to you is, do they fit in? Give me a moment to slide over to the video. All right, here we go.
Hello, my name is Debbie. This is my first attempt, at a eHarmony video. This is my first time at online dating, so I'm nervous, but I'm excited at the same time. So I'm just gonna start talking about what I like and hope I get some replies. So I am a recent MBA grad from Villanova. I love cats. Sorry, I'm getting emotional. I love cats. I love every kind of cat. Sorry, I really love cats. And I just want to hug all of them, but I can't because that's crazy. I can't hug every cat. But I just want to. I want to. I'm sorry. I get, anytime I hear cat, I love cats. Promised myself I wouldn't cry. So anyway, I am a cat lover, and I love to run. I'm sorry, I'm thinking about cats again. I think about how many don't have a home and how I should have them and how cute they are and their ears and the whiskers and the nose. I just love them and I want them and I want them in a basket and I want little bow ties. I want them to be on a rainbow and just in my bed, and I just want a house full of them and I just want to still roll around. I can't. I can't.
Young. All right. Let me switch back over. So does this person fit in?
No.
That's a little bit of a delayed response, Tina. Why not? Why don't they fit in?
Well, first of all, I don't think that this person knew what they were doing. They're on a dating site and you're trying to fit in. And so the first question that will probably be asked of anyone is, what's wrong with this person? There's obviously something wrong. And this is not the forum to burst out in tears about cats.
Absolutely. I'm going to go back in my slides because this helps us to understand the social penetration theory, right? It's not appropriate, even on a first date, a social platform, we would expect you to still follow the penetration theory of your first meeting with somebody, you stay on the superficial level and you talk about a lot of different topics just on this surface level. She talked about one topic to her core, right? The core is now showing your deep emotion and your deep love for animals. And that's great. But context, culture, and relationship affect how we do this sharing, right? So, does this person fit in? Well, I would pose this to you, Tina. What if she used this or had this sort of response working for an animal hospital or an animal shelter? Would it be received differently? What do you think?
I think it would if she wasn't bursting into tears every few seconds. You know what I mean?
So without the tears, the intense emotion might be something that fits in. Or we would have, if we have reciprocation, meaning other persons felt that way or that deeply about the topic, then we fit in. But would this person be accepted? And that's what we mean between the difference between fitting in or being accepted for just who she is. And if we reciprocate that, that is an acceptance. So we've been talking about this already. Sharing in the workplace. Let's make it a little bit more specific. Should you share personal information in the workplace? What do you think, Tina? What's your perspective?
Not everything. I think that you have to first get a better feeling of the people you want to be close to. The closer you are to someone, the more you're sharing. But if I don't really know you, if you're just a colleague, I probably wouldn't share my personal information.
So you are already giving me context. I'm also looking in the chat. Yes. So context matters. Culture matters. Relationship matters. Our context is what is happening around us. So we're really focusing on the workplace. Well, I'll share with you, I have some serious animal lovers in my work suite, in my office suite. They love this video. So in the context of our office, we have one, we're still in the workplace, and we have shared our personal journeys as being animal people. But then our culture is, there are people in my office who are parents to lots of animals. They rescue animals. They find homes for animals. So culture is what they do. But I also have to recognize that I have developed a relationship with these people, that we have a level of intimacy where they would share their hopes, their dreams about these animals. They would share that with me. I will self-disclose, I do not own any animals. Nope. But I am a cat person. And then I have to measure how I say that around dog people. That's culture. If you own a dog versus owning or having a pet as a dog or having a cat, those are two different cultures. And culture is everything about us. So these three things are going to affect how we share, when we share, what's appropriate to share. And so in the chat, lots of animals. Yeah, but we may not be so intense about those animals. But your culture dictates if you are or aren't. This is a slide that I used from building on our communication, and culture is everything about us. It's from what you do in the morning to how your morning routine goes, to the places that you go to work, to the things that you like to do with your free time. but it's things that we share with other people. So when we move into the workplace, we are operating in several different cultures. And it's not just the parade of flags that's happening Friday night for the Olympics, but it's within our own society of different groups that we've become a part of. Now, that's important for us to understand, because as we're developing that relationship, and Tina, you mentioned this, developing that relationship with that other person begins to understand, well, what is their culture? What is interesting to them? What do they care about? What do they dream about? What is offensive to them? What is funny to them? And so we go through this slow process of self-disclosure, right? Sharing with one another. So here are some concepts that we can use to building a meaningful relationship. Despite context, despite culture, and despite relationship, if all of these things are new or on the formal, we can use these 10 concepts, and I'll quickly go over them. Number 1, be positive. Positive is international, and it speaks through every culture and context. Now, I don't mean be happy-go-lucky or silly. I mean be positive. And this starts from us, right? Where are we and where's our positivity? Are we already supported and accepting of ourselves? And I can jump over to the other side to be happy with yourself. Secondly, boundaries. Boundaries are important and appropriate. I do need to mention that in larger corporations, we do have HR training, human resource training, because there are laws, and I want to be clear here, not everything is appropriate and necessary for you to share, because we are protected in the workplace, right, against negative things like discrimination. So you actually don't have to talk about anything in your personal life. But the question is, there go my lights again. Should you? And in what ways could you that can help to build your relationships in this place? And then you can determine if you want to take it outside of the workplace. So boundaries are boundaries in what do you feel comfortable sharing? What in that social penetration theory do you want to bring to your colleagues or your coworkers? Third is celebrating. I mentioned this in another session, that in my office suite, there is a list of birthdays. We've all agreed to do that. In other workplaces, maybe that may not be the culture, right? It may just be your birth month. But we have a group text, and on the day of that birthday, everybody says a happy birthday. It's a little bit of a celebration, or a cake. Again, this may not be for everybody because of food consumption, allergies, and so on. But just a moment to acknowledge. And this may not just be your birthday. What achievements? What are positive things that are happening? Just taking a moment to say, congratulations, because it's okay to celebrate things. The fourth is actively listening, taking a moment to really hear what people are sharing. So it's not just what we choose to share, but acknowledging when someone is taking the time to share with us. Are they trying to develop a relationship with us? Even so, in your workplaces, when we're interacting on projects or things that we need to collaborate with, are we hearing the needs and the desires of our colleagues and working closely to achieve the same goal? Are we asking clarifying questions to decipher that we both have the same meaning? Because culture always makes it so that we understand things differently, but checking for meaning is active listening. Fifth, following up and nurturing. This does not have to be outside of the workplace. Again, I'm not advocating that to have a meaningful workplace relationship is that you hang out at home all the time. No, our relationships can stay within the workplace, but it is up to you. How do you follow up with that? Is there something that was mentioned previously that you just take a note on your calendar and a reminder to say, follow up with person at X date, right? That helps to build trust. That helps to build that relationship. On our next category is honesty. Being honest with that person, making sure that you're honest with yourself. And this connects to boundaries, right? Setting boundaries is acknowledging your needs and desires and being able to clearly communicate that to others. And that's being honest in your relationship. I don't enjoy, or I do enjoy, or these are not things that I participate in. No one can know that unless you share it. I'll go over it. The next one again, be happy with yourself because you have power. You are wonderful and you can bring us more, right? So when you are happy, you are sharing with us. Attend events, attend workshops. You're doing that now by increasing your knowledge and working on skills that you may have already done and to develop more because we keep changing, we keep developing over time. And sometimes we need a refresher to maintain what we're doing. Next, be genuine. Be genuine in your interactions and be vulnerable. It is okay to try to trust. We start off small. We start off at that superficial level. We start out with a small conversation here, and then it can lead to deeper connections. So using these 10 helpful hints can help you to build that relationship. But now let's go to the relationships that you already have. I want to take a moment and give us a second to think about the relationships that you have. We've been talking a lot about starting relationships. And you can screenshot this if you're with us online, and do this at a time of reflection. But think about, start with one relationship. What do you enjoy? What do you love about it? Is it that you get to spend time with that person? Are they funny? Do you talk about things that you have similar interests in? Take some time to list those things out. And then move to what you don't like. Be honest here. Analyze what makes you feel uncomfortable or upset or confused in your relationship. Maybe it's something that just is a part of the relationship, and it could be the environment that you're in. It could be outside of the relationship, or it could be something that you do, or you find that you do in the relationship, or it could be something that they do in the relationship. Then lastly, how can you change it? Now, just the way we started is by looking at ourselves. We cannot change other people, but we can change our communication to address conflict or to think about what's going on and say, hey, I want to use this resource to help improve our relationship. So this is a strategy that I use in all my interpersonal courses to say, take a moment to analyze your relationship. If this is a relationship that you value, let that positivity fuel you to analyze and come up with a plan to improve it. Now, I want to share with you a perspective that is not easy, but I try my best to live my life by. I don't have to like you to be nice to you. I learned this from a child. Now, I break this down in two ways. What does it mean to like somebody? Well, if we define like, that really enters us into friendships, right? Or positive or intimate relationships. To like someone is to want to be around them. You choose them, and that's typically a friendship. We could go into other types of perhaps romantic relationships, but we're staying on workplace. Now, the second part is being nice. What does it mean to be nice, to be kind, to be respectful, to have a genuine interaction. So if we reinterpret this statement, I don't have to be friends and close with somebody in order to have a genuine moment with them, to be positive, to set my boundaries in a respectful way, to have a moment that we can collaborate and we can move forward together. And at the end of that moment, it still does not mean that I have to be their friend. It doesn't mean that we're going to share close personal information. It means that I am always bringing positivity to the people that are around me. It's not easy, but it takes resilience to be able to be nice. So as we make those connections, little things matter. And those little things are what make us human. I use a picture of Precious Moments, the popular sort of cartoonized experiences of life. I once knew a person who loved these Precious Moments dolls, and that is what we connected over. We did not have many things in common, but I could connect over this one thing. And so every time we had conversations, we might look at new dolls. We might talk about the collection of dolls that she had, but that became a connection that I could keep going back to for years, and that kept our interactions positive. And much like was shared before, that person had power. They had a power that I valued, that I wanted to interact with them. And vice versa, I had power that they wanted to interact with me. And our connection was over a small ceramic doll. So how do we improve and maintain our relationships? We talk about sharing. We've talked about yourself and building yourself up. Let's finish up with maintaining. Now, I don't know about you, but I love flowers. The summertime, the springtime is a moment to see the bursting colors. And specifically, I love petunias because they can just build up any space and make it look beautiful. And so I love to buy petunias and some other, I believe, perennial flowers. But I have a problem. I don't like the heat. So I don't like going outside to water them. I don't like staying out in the sun to weed them. So I may start by planting them when they look great. And relationships are exciting when we start at work. But they do take time to nurture. And I want to encourage you to do that. I want to encourage you to maintain your relationship. So I planted my flowers. And then I ignored them. Folks, this is my own personal photo. And you can see that they were still growing. These aren't quite petunias, but you can see some blossoms on them. And they kept giving me a little bit of satisfaction, right? Our relationships. Yes, you're ignored yours too. We're in the same boat. We're human. We're human. But I did ignore them. I may not have had the time for them, or maybe I was, not feeling at my best. And so I couldn't take the time to get out. And you can see these weeds start to choke them. The weeds start to take over the area and they're not able to grow and thrive. Folks, our relationships are just like that. In the workplace or personal, they do require maintenance. But I did some work before it was too late. I pulled at those weeds. I put down some fertilizer. I gave them a good watering. And I even put down some mulch around to help keep the weeds away. I can report that I have been taking care of them and they forgave me. Sometimes they don't forgive and they die. Sometimes relationships, we go our separate ways. But before we get to that point, I want to share some skills of maintenance strategies. Do not be like me and the flowers. Maintain your relationships. And so here are 7 strategies that we can use. 1, we keep coming back to it. Positivity. Does that mean you have to be positive all the time? Absolutely not. Life happens. We have a lot of responsibilities. But what can you share with them? Is that a crazy cat lady video that gives them a chuckle? Is it a funny story that you could share with them? Is it watching a movie together if you have the time? Set a moment aside to remain positive or to just break into the positivity. 2, be open. Now, we are now talking about when we create more intimate relationships, close relationships at work. Is it okay to share your personal information? This takes time to become open, right? To be honest. 3rd is to make assurances. Assurances tell us, okay, we're busy, but I can get back to you, right? The common term these days is called ghosting. When we don't hear from other people, we just say they're a ghost. They've left us. You may not be able to dedicate the time right now because of all your responsibilities, but make the assurance to say, hey, I'll call you back, or let's make an appointment. Put it down in your device so that it reminds you to make time for that relationship. 4 is networking. We had a session on networking and we have another one coming back in person if you can join us on Saturdays. Networking to put yourself out there, to get used to meeting new people, to take the time to listen and try to make those new connections with others. 5th is sharing tasks. When we're in the workplace, this is important of being specific as to what your responsibilities are and what you can handle. And then if you're in a position to delegate or to acknowledge other people's strengths and say, you would be best suited doing X task because you have the skills and the expertise in this area. 6th is conflict management. Conflict is a part of life and it never goes away. But if we couple it with number 1, positivity, how can we get to the heart of what's really the problem and then solve it to make sure that it gets done? This one conflicts are usually the result of not being able to clearly articulate tasks, and especially in a timeline that both parties can agree on. And lastly is advice. Be careful of this one. Advice is an important part of our relationships, but it should not come unsolicited. Ask if that person is looking for advice when they're sharing with you. Sometimes our openness simply wants to be met with acceptance, and that's all you have to do. Other times, our openness might be met with, well, what is your perspective? It's okay to ask and say, would you like to know my perspective on the situation? I can give you some advice if you'd like. So I hope that these strategies are something that you can use in your workplace. Try them out one at a time. Look at that one relationship that you value, that you want to continue to develop. Use one of these maintenance strategies and then see how does it have an effect on your relationship, and then go from there. Gardening is not for the person who just picks up plants and leaves them on their porch. Don't be like me. Set some time aside to plant them in your garden. Dedicate a little bit of time to maintain it every day or in the time that you have to have a beautiful, burgeoning relationships. We have a few more sessions coming up in the communication series. We have one more online session next week, Thursday, and I hope that you'll join us again for leadership skills, and we'll build on our conversations in the past Thursdays, so you can see those online. And if you have the time, please join us this week, Saturday, for communication strategies and networking for business owners. And our last session will be next week, Saturday, for leadership skills again, and also building strong relationships if you'd like to do it in person. Thanks again for your time tonight. Be well.
Thank you, everybody, for logging on, and I hope everyone has a great evening.